When it comes to tourist destinations in Toronto, right by the CN Tower is Ripley's Aquarium. This destination makes for a great escape from the city's usual thoroughfares, home to Canada's largest indoor aquarium. We'd gone on a standard Wednesday during the day, and even still the place was crowded beyond belief. The starting exhibits feature your standard collection of aquatic species all on these displays. Although one thing to note is that the tops of these tanks are exposed, so parents of mischievous children might find themselves in a wee bit of trouble. This cylindrical tank of hundreds of fish swimming in unison, however, was much better protected. We made our way to the Canadian waters so we could find some habitats closer to home. From catfish to sawnoses, the collection here is just the beginning for what Ripley's has in store. Following that, we saw some very interesting crustaceans, like these lobsters here that were half blue and half pink, which was pretty cool. Next exhibit was the Pacific kelp region on the west side of Canada, featuring, as you'd expect, diverse kelp species and the sea life that find their home in this environment. They use kelp as a food source, areas to hide from predators, and all-around synergistic environment, even in captivity here. The way that Ripley set up these tanks here makes the kelp and their fish look like they're bouncing up and down, which I always found amusing each time I went here. Now it was time to reach our main attraction of the aquarium. The Rainbow Reef is an appetizer for our next section, featuring colorful sea life in the Pacific Ocean. Tropical fish gathered to create a marvelous display for guests to enjoy, including everyone's favorite Pixar blue tang, Dory. Wow! Next was the Dangerous Lagoon, where guests step onto a conveyor belt to enjoy the tunnel of the finest Ripley's has to offer. Sea turtles gently float along and live in harmony with the many species that live here, including the generally assumed dangerous sharks abound. It was incredible to see all these typically feared aquatic species through the glass tunnel in a full 360-degree spread as if it were truly underwater as well. There's definitely a trained way or conditioned reason as to why these predators don't feed on the different prey fish here with them, as it really feels like a fairy tale seeing them all live peacefully with one another in this vast space. Unlike in the conditions of the wild, that is. Then again, I'm grateful that I'm observing these shark species from this side of the glass rather than the alternative. Halfway through, we also found this absolutely gigantic fish that I can't remember the name of for the life of me. This thing was just staring into the wall, no thoughts, head empty. By the sandy floor, we can see the majestic rays as well. Even in this bend of the conveyor belt alone felt like a magical underwater escape. Following that, we entered the kids' play area we saw at the start, which was just as crowded as it was before. There's this water play table that I actually remember playing at when I was younger, and it's great that it's still here to make memories for the future generation as well. The cylindrical tank from the start, now viewed from below, grants a whole new perspective that's mesmerizing in an entirely new way, like looking up at the sun from the sea floor. There was also this interactive tank that one could duck into to see this small space from inside, and while difficult to get into, it was fun to wave at the people on the other end of the glass. Though, given its size, it was definitely made for children, as evident by the children trying to use it. Yeah, in hindsight, probably not the best idea for me to try, especially now that I'm an adult. But hey, I wasn't bothering anyone, and it's still fun despite how silly it looked. If you like travel videos like this, I'd urge you to like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow this channel a lot in 2025, so any support is greatly appreciated. There's more travel content ahead, but for now, back to the video. There's still more of the aquarium to explore, including these lionfish with their manes akin to their namesake. Moray eels alongside their funny fish friends, and squids featured in this reversible video eating a dead fish in visceral details for people to watch again and again. Like, the fact that you can just do this is really funny. Recently, I've seen advertisements highlighting this new dragons section, which had me really excited as a Dungeons & Dragons nerd myself. Granted, I didn't expect to see real dragons, if you can even call them that necessarily, but we had a selection of reptiles in this place, which were honestly in very tiny displays. The section as a whole wasn't very expansive at all, it was just one room, which was really disappointing. My brother theorized that these were the reptiles they kept at the Ontario Science Centre, which is now closed, just haphazardly given a new home while the new one's being constructed, which makes a lot of sense to me, though it doesn't change how underwhelming this section really was. Next, we had a section dedicated to the jellyfish in their magnificent form. The stark contrasting blue light gave each one such a unique appearance that stole the show for the captive audience of guests. It was honestly better than I remembered it, honestly, and seeing them up close this way left such a strong impression as a highlight of this aquarium's collection. There's really nothing more to say, so I'll just leave it at that for us to enjoy. To close out this trip, they had this full section on the water conservation and environmental aspects of the aquarium, which was nice enough. There was even this wave-making interactive, which was similar to the one in Chicago's Science and Industry Museum, but this one didn't seem to work nearly as well. And so, with an overhead look at the lagoon, we completed our trip at Ripley's Aquarium. Though no tourist attraction is complete without a gift shop now, is it? This area here had more rays and other fish that people could interact with, and really this seems like a safety accident waiting to happen leaning over the edge. And so that concludes our trip to Ripley's Aquarium, and it was really fun to explore and a great revisit after all this time. Although the question now is, how does it stack up to similar urban city aquariums? The Shed Aquarium, if you haven't watched my Chicago video, is that city's main aquatic attraction. I'd like to compare the two. In terms of location, Ripley's right at the heart of downtown, which makes it a lot easier to access. Shed is still close to downtown, but on the outskirts of Grant Park, which means it's a decent walk to the park to get there. Though Grant Park is fantastic to walk through, so it's hardly a point dock. While Ripley's does have the dangerous lagoon tunnel and the jellyfish, it doesn't hold a candle to the same magnitude of quality consistently across exhibits as the Shed does. From the dolphin show, vast explorative areas, penguins, beluga whales, and so much more, it's hard for Ripley's to compare to the variety that the Shed Aquarium has. Shed's design was somewhat closed off during my visit, but I actually enjoyed choosing my own path through the aquarium despite some of the closures. Each area was numbered, so it was really easy to keep track of where I'd been and where I wanted to revisit a certain section again. Ripley's is more simple by having guests follow a linear path, but it does remove that sense of exploration. Converting to Canadian prices, tickets to the Shed Aquarium for non-Chicago residents runs about $52, but to the City Pass, which I used during my trip, assuming we split the cost across 5 attractions, it runs about $40, which is still pricey for admission, but isn't bad. However, the cost for a ticket to Ripley's was out the gate $50, for unfortunately less time spent and overall less exhibits. Now, Toronto also has a City Pass, which runs for about $130 for 5 attractions, meaning your Ripley's ticket would be about $26, which is a much better deal. Though I'd personally argue that the attractions in the City Pass Chicago are generally better value than Toronto's ones, but that's being sidetracked. The point is that the prices are relatively comparable, but considering the difference in quality, Shed gets the advantage here. But in all fairness, it's not exactly right to judge Ripley's compared to a titan like the Shed Aquarium. On its own, it's still a very compelling attraction with many exhibits that are impressive to see, like the dangerous lagoon and the jellyfish. Though that is to say that one of my main gripes is the inconsistency in the impressive exhibits throughout. With its linear nature, there are lots of ebbs and flows, ups and downs, which in theory makes a really high point special. But to me, it almost encourages moving along through some of the more tame sections faster to get to the good parts, which is really counterintuitive. And for how short the experience actually is, that price really is too much. But all in all, still a great escape in time with friends or family if you're interested. Overall, I give it a 7 out of 10 stars. So until next time, bye for now.